What up, my people? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are diving into J-Hope's Jack in the Box. And coming off listening to RM's project last night, I have no idea what to expect because going from JK to him was really one world to another, and it was a quick glimpse into what the BTS universe really has to offer, and I'm excited to see what comes next. Again, for those of you that are new here, welcome to the channel. I'm diving into K-pop, specifically slamming BTS this week prior to the album. I know it's more rushed than I'd like, but I want to support the new project. I've already become a fan of two of the members, so it just, as I mentioned in some comments, it goes against my moral code to avoid listening to the album when it's something I want to do. And so I know the experience I have listening kind of backwards is a little out of the ordinary, but I had that experience with the Blackpink girls. I would not change one thing about that. And to reassure you, I also have been playing RM's album on repeat today. I've been playing Golden on repeat today as well, so it's not like I did the reaction and it just turned off. I will continue to listen to these throughout the week, so as I get ready for the new project, I have a good understanding of it all. Anyways, though, let's just jump into this one.
What Zeus had kept inside the box broke loose from their confinement. All that was foul was now unleashed upon the world. Pandora, unable to undo what she had done, fell into despair. As she grieved, she heard a feeble quiver from the box. She lifted the lid once more, and out fluttered a small, bright, most beautiful creature she had ever seen. It flapped its delicate wings as it danced around Pandora, lightly brushing against her shoulder. Pandora immediately felt her angst melt away, and her heart glow with warmth. It was hope that was kept in the innermost nook of the box. It trailed behind the miasma of darkness, assuaging their ill effects on humankind. Hope gave people the will to carry on living amidst the pain and strife.
Interesting. Alright, so now we got Pandora's Box, the intro directly attached.
They call me Hope, do you know I'm Hope? 판도라의 history, 그게 내 born. 인간에게 주어진 큰 신들의 성신, 판도라가 남긴 상자 속의 하늘빛 때묻지 하는 소년의 기대. 어디에 방탄의 희망이 dread on the frame. 그렇게 주어진 운명의 수계식, that's my name. 신화로 깊어지는 의미와 함께 on my way. Someone's fly, someone's smart, someone's hope. 내 활동들은 someone's life. 시간은 이름대로 흘러가. Someone's star, 내 영혼이 다듬어지면 생기는 모토와 vibe. Yeah. 그렇게 제출해내 이력서, 비로소 첫도야 컴월. 필요했던 필연성 계속 발전을 꿈꿔. What's my path? What do I have to sign? Just keep on doing my thing. 내가 green dreamy dream 문제수가 green 유무이 큰 dream인 거. 나를 불러들인 주인의 호심. 이건 마치 판도라의 운명적인 criminal. 그래 겪어보니 세상이 보여. 인간을 끓게 하는 수만 가지의 고열. 욕심, 시기, 원한, 전투, 목숨, 미움. 어쩌면 the reason we need hope. 그게 많지만 이 덕은 우린 뒤로 걸어도 무섭지 않은 벤자민 버튼. 앞장서 조금이나마 느낄 수 있다면 힐 깨워주고 파각자 숨은 작은 영웅을 이상자는 우물한 속 flow. 큰 세상 밖으로 좀 재앙을 마주해도 부딪히고 싶어. Jack in the box, look at my title. 여러분 다 이제 믿어보는 나 이름. Drag to the hole, down to the headman, drag in the box. Pandora's horn, 하나 남은 희망, drag in the box. Drag to the hole, down to the headman, drag in the box. Pandora's horn, 하나 남은 희망, drag in the box. Drag to the hole, jump to the hitman, drag in the box. Pandora's horn, 하나 남은 희망, drag in the box. Goes move with the drum with this hot shit. Boy, it's unboxing. Let's go.
Alright, so that was Pandora's Box, and before we get into more, my main takeaways are sonically, it was very old school hip-hop. A lot of great grunge to it almost, I would say, within the sound design. The vocals were mixed in a way where it felt like they were pretty dry, not a lot of reverb or tune or any effects, really focusing on just his sound, which I find interesting, and I'm excited to see where that goes because that's very difficult to do, to characterize additionally. I think a lot of people in today's day and age use a lot of saturation and reverb and tune and different effects to make their voice stand out. It felt pretty raw. I loved the ad-libbing throughout there in the background, kind of just poking in the left and the right, mainly in the left pocket. I feel like they kept it a few ad-libs poking out of, but sonically I thought it was great. I really was focused on his vocal presence more than anything else. It just stood out as strong. And oftentimes when I listen to artists, I try and kind of read into not just what they're saying, but kind of how they sing or rap a song, how they bring emotions to life. And I feel like he's going to be a very vivid storyteller. With Jungkook, I saw a gifted voice and vocal tone. With RM, I saw a genius mind. I'm not going to make any assumptions on tomorrow what he is, but I can just say already, he's definitely going to be a very vivid storyteller. That was the first thing I got. I think the meanings of the album, I'm interested to see where he goes with Jack in the Box, Pandora's Box, and the idea of lost hope, but also providing hope. And he had a line in there I found really interesting about, like, do we need more or less hope? And I wonder how many entendres there are to that, of do we need more or less of him and his personal battle with maybe getting himself out there more? Do we need more or less of just hope in general in society? Do we have too much sometimes or too little? I feel like he's going to be an amazing storyteller. So I'm excited to kind of just get into the next song, which is More, the music video.
Yeah, I'm thirsty. 필요하게 we surfing. 나무만 나무 고기. Suck out the music. 이니 미니 마니 모. 춤추는 아기 flow. Keep my passion, I gotta go. I'm still 99. 11년 전도 각종 내 형광 밑줄은 백범매미 학봉. 끝이 없는 학습 부딪히고 넘어지면 나오는 작품. 이 붙이서도 make it move, make it mine, make it right 또 누군가의 every sign. 그게 너의 손에 반 삶의 이유 삶의 나 원동력을 carry on. Bring it up. I'm doing it up. 실세 없이 직행 Make my mix that fit bag 와도 get bang 뭐든 달게 먹는 kitchen 내겐 sweet tag 상호 관계 좀 유익해 기름 drip해 줌에 drive 또난 비트 던져 주의해 난 부주의해 sweet bang 멋진 gripman check it so solid take that. 살아 숨 쉬는 것 같아. Bring it up. I'm doing it up. We surfing. 나물만 나물 고기. Suck out the music. Yeah. Mini 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 mo. 춤추는 아기 flow. Keep my passion, I gotta go. I'm still 99.
That's cool. I didn't catch that at first. Alright, so that was More. And again, sound design sonically, very older hip-hop, I would say, like original hip-hop with the roots of rock. More saturation on his voice that time in terms of the grit they're giving him. But again, I feel like he's a master of storytelling, and that shows because you kind of get lost in the production of what's really going on. With older hip hop like that, I feel like there's less beat changes consistently throughout the song. Like nowadays, it's always the focus of how am I adding more elements to a song to keep your mind busy. And this felt like section, just let it run, 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 run. Pivot, change the style, run, 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 pivot, change the style. And in terms of more meaning, still trying to understand everything about his branding. I don't expect to without knowing who he is and his backstory, but it was very clear. He works for the love of the game. He's doing it for the care for music and the impact, not the money, the fame, as he said, not all that comes with that, but for wanting to perform in a stadium full of his fans. And in order to do so, you got to study the greats, which I did appreciate his little nod to that. Like, I've been studying for hours. I've been researching. I've been doing everything in the office, putting in that work. Because a lot of people like to play that nonchalant role where it's like, nah, I'm just gifted. Like, I could just do it. I didn't have to put in those hours. I was born this way. More times than not, you may be born gifted, but it's still the work that got you to be where you are. And so I appreciated that sort of humbleness. Pretty humbling to be like, I don't want the money and fame. I've seen all that. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for more, but not more money, not more fame. I'm doing this for more art and more hope, maybe. And I feel like some of the scenes felt like he's probably uses music as a very good coping strategy. I could just feel like the way he was sitting there staring, that the music is clearly an escape or a reset button for him to just kind of circle back home. And so now we got Stop.
Right. 힘든 게 있어 내 친구에 대해 가치관 성격 달인 내 우정자에 대해 좋게 좋게 말해도 의문 드는 리액션 베푸는 건 내 쪽 애써 감추려 했어 Stop, 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 stop Don't fight, 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 fight 믿고 약속하지만 한 번 더 생각을 해 어떻게 다 비슷하고 어떻게 다 똑같아 본질은 바뀔 순 없어 이제 가 be myself 단 한 털의 믿음이 널 지배해
Interesting.
그래도 뉴스는 바보와 달리 크리미널 정말 사람이 저래 짐승보다 못한 인간들의 행위 참 더럽더라고 심하게 말해 사람 새끼인가 싶더라고 나도 wait stop 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 calm down 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 그래 이건 원초적으로 돌아가 다시 그들을 봐 살아온 환경 교육 시스템 너 다른 부분은 무엇인가 의제 보는 거야 하나만 인간 본연의 내 모습 그 하나만 please be right 요즘은 스마트한 세상보다 스마트한 게 대번 분노에 비대면 회담이 생긴 시간 문제야 불안전한 area so too many virus 무의식적인 오염 나도 피할 수 없는 거야 Stop, 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 stop Change our minds, 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 minds 인과 법칙에 의하여 세상에 나온 우리 그릇한들 일체 유심조 우리가 만드는 거지 작은 시작이 큰 발걸음 이게 세상 은변의 나쁜 사람은 어디에 is right
Alright, so that was Stop, and I gotta take a second and stop and think because I found that one very interesting. I mean, immediately the messaging I was agreeing with. And I have been saying, as I said on some Blackpink songs, I really do enjoy most of the songs where the English translation really flows well with the actual lyricism. Because I've only had a few songs where I had a hard time putting together the lyrics with what was actually being said when you translate to English. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does. This was a good example of that. But really fascinating question of, are people born bad or turned bad? Are you a product of your environment or is your environment a product of you? It's a very interesting question. And clearly all the guys are very intellectually bright. That's a given at this point in the music. It's all been so very different so far, so I'm very excited to see what happens when they all get in one room together. But in the case of this, the sonics are still similar to the first two. Old hip-hop, real rap at its core, and not what we see nowadays with all the subgenres of melodic rap or sad rap or trap music, club music. Like, this is at its core what hip-hop was, kind of rock roots, grunge, with snares and kick drums, which I know he mentioned snares earlier. But the conversation he brings up is really interesting to me of, are there bad people in this world? And I always talk about how you can't try and evaluate somebody else's problems at face value because you've never walked a day in their shoes. What's difficult to you might not be difficult to them, and vice versa. You don't ever actually know what it felt like to be somebody else. So it is really crazy when you think about the idea of murder, which is dark, as he mentions. But I have these conversations all the time, and I find that the way in which somebody perceives a song like this or a conversation like this gives you a lot of insight into how they view themselves and how they view the world, because the world is not black and white. There is a lot of gray, mostly gray. And we live in a world where people like to pick extremes on all sides of things versus actually having a conversation. This is the conversation. I love that. I always laugh saying with friends and people when we talk, say politics, for example, which I don't get into and I won't publicly speak on, but the idea that no matter what side you're on, people always want to play the blame game and say the other side did something wrong. But when a problem gets brought up, nobody actually wants to address what a possible solution could be. They just want to point a finger and act like somebody else is to blame, or it's not their fault for this reason or whatever. And when you get down to the gritty of it, it's like no one actually ever wants to have the conversation that needs to be had. This is the idea. He's not judging you as a good person or a bad person. He's saying there are no bad people. There are decisions and choices you get to make. I find that interesting. Obviously, as I dive deeper into each artist and the journey, I will learn more about each of them, their backstories. Again, going in totally blind so I can really take the music at face value. And while it is backwards, I really enjoy that because now I'm starting to get a glimpse of him from the music, not from what people say online. Now we got equal sign. The groove is so great.
Paralyze your mind, gotta see the other side, because you're nothing to be kind. Not so different, you and I, looking for love in a different light, until we find an equal size.
Sorry, I hate jumping in the middle. What is this interpolating? People chanting, where is the love? Yeah, he talk about doing his homework. I'm so sorry to jump in the middle, but it was scratching my brain. What was he sampling? Where is the love? What a great sample. Great way to flip it just in more modern time.
Paralyze your mind, gotta see the other side, because you're nothing to be kind. Not so different, you and I, looking for love in a different light, until we find an equal size. 우리가 쉬는 숨들, 우리가 끄는 꿈들, 삶 속 웃음과 눈물, 나 존중받은 품들. Just a piece to give strength, and the closure of our hearts. It all makes sense when they start singing for love in this world. Hey, come on, let's come together. Equality is you and me.
Yeah, so that was equal sign. I mentioned earlier, I loved that he said he does his homework and put his time in, and the Sonic showed that, because that's important. A lot of people like to act nonchalant. And then to interpolate and flip "Where is the love" with the same sort of meaning, just his own little spin on it. I love that. That was beautiful. Really shows me not even the idea of I'm just gonna say I like to do the homework, but I'm actually gonna do the homework and change things up. That was a brilliant flip. Because the meaning ties instantly. The rhythm of the drum sounded familiar too a little bit, and the swing was great. Yeah, this has been really brilliant. A good look into what J-Hope is and what he represents. What he was saying very much resonates to me as well with listening to RM yesterday. I know RM, somebody commented and there were a few lines that were really discussing the idea of feeling as if you have the loudest voice, yet somehow you're still silent, like people don't want to hear what they need to. And the same thing presented on this song. No matter what I'm trying to say, doesn't matter if people aren't gonna hear it. And that's not necessarily talking to fans, of course. That's talking to the bigger picture. Like, even if you get a huge platform and you try and speak on things, people don't want to pay attention to what actually matters sometimes. All right, this is a reflection. Little breather, a chance to think. Honestly, a unique touch to put that right after equal sign, give you the chance to breathe on what he was just saying and take a moment to reflect on it. No, I found that interesting. And now we go to what if. I wonder how that translates smooth into the drop of this.
수십 번 내게 질문을 해 Am I really like that? 희망 긍정 늘 오는 얼굴의 상태 그저 할 수 있는 부분이라고 생각했어 So my music, my speech, my feel I made it myself But 의문이 들어 J-Hope에게 물어 너라면 네가 말한 부분들을 지킬 수 있어 하지만 내 자의가 아닌 무서운 환경으로 탄생한 나 당당히 비춘 너의 persona Hold up 시련이란 건 뭘까 혼돈한 계단으로만 올라왔기에 그건 모를 수도 있는 거야 정작 넌 지금 다 가졌지 너 운명의 분위기가 좋은 사람들의 팔로잉까지 나 자신을 사랑하고 희망을 가지라는 거 저 모든 게 박탈이 되고 밑바닥에도 말할 수 있을까 너 Hold up Nothing. Can I do that shit?
Interesting. So that was what if, kind of posing the question to himself and to the audience as well of how do you move through life balancing hope and struggle. Clearly his name, J-Hope, choosing the name Hope represents him trying to be, I would say, a figure of that. That shows very clearly that the music, in my opinion, at least so far, is he is trying to be a source of light. With JK, I was really focused on the artistry of the music. With RM, I felt like I was getting a view into somebody's mind and in a glimpse into their reality, the way they think, the way they slow things down. With this, I was getting storyteller right out the gate, and I'm still feeling that same way where he's trying to be not just an author, but an advocate. He's trying to be somebody to source light to other people and asking the questions sometimes people are afraid to. I haven't done a review on this channel to an artist like that, but one of my favorite artists of the past decade is NF, for the ability to just throw a story your way that is so moving and really makes you push yourself and question yourself. Sometimes it takes an unfamiliar voice to help share insights for you. It helps remind you that, hey, like, can I do this? Yeah, I can do this. Everything you want is right in front of you. Are you gonna do it today, or are you gonna put it off till tomorrow? So I really enjoyed that one as well. So far, this project has been stellar. Next, we got Safety Zone. I believe we got Future after this, and then one more.
내 20대를 바치며 무궁무진한 삶을 살고 있어 다 보란 듯 응답하지만 날 돌아보란 듯 커지는 이면 세상은 빠르게 변하고 그 순간 다르게 외로워 괴로워 아구는 없듯 내 삶이 적적해져가 Oh my gosh 마음 맞춰 살아가지만 삐걱다 애써 나를 위해 외치는 듯해 Break a leg in my zone 도심 속 잘 맞춰 사람도 만나지만 교통 정리가 안 된 차들처럼 이리 치고 저리 치곤 해 나 왜 없는데 어디 가면 있는데 길 맞춰 잘 보면 안전지대가 있던데 그래 의미 없이 팔만 불지 이가 마치 깡통 Porsche 나도 가고 싶은데 Where is the mindset 내 심리 속에서도 있기는 한 걸까 그 누군가는 나에게 아낌없이 줬을 터인데 잠시 돌이켜보기 위한 내 구루터기는 어딨나 어둠 속 안도의 한 줄기 빛은 어딜까 고즈넉한 home 아니면 저 먼 블루이가 Where's my safe joint 왼쪽 오른쪽 Go straight What's my safe joint 이거 저거 or X 어둠 속 안도의 한 줄기 빛은 어딜까 고즈넉한 home 아니면 저 먼 블루이가 Where's my safe joint 왼쪽 오른쪽 Go straight What's my safe joint 이거 저거 or X 믿어주는 사람들의 인물 그들도 등을 돌리며 차갑고 날 이끈 people 잘 생각해보면 두려워 일어나는 사람도 털어놓을 수 없는 사명감 요즘은 사람보다 동물이 좋다라고 느껴 자멸감 임종을 앞둔 노을 같아 밤과 새벽을 달래준 light Where's the zone 근제도 피가는 night green zone But 이 길을 선택하는 순간 있기는 할까 나의 safe zone 어둠 속 안도의 한 줄기 빛은 어딜까 고즈넉한 home 아니면 저 먼 블루일까 Where's my safe zone 왼쪽 오른쪽 Go straight What's my safe zone 이거 저거 or X 어둠 속 안도의 한 줄기 빛은 어딜까 고즈넉한 home 아니면 저 먼 블루일까 Where's my safe zone 왼쪽 오른쪽 Go straight What's my safe zone Joker or X Where's my safe zone? Where's my safe zone? Tell me if you know Where's my safe zone? Where's my safe zone? What's my safe zone?
All right, so that was Safe Zone, another beautiful one. Honestly, I loved the change of tone from a little more grunge we've seen to a bit more light piano. I live in the Pacific Coast, so I love to drive down the coastline. That's a safe zone for me, I'd say, and it very much felt like this is a great song to just have an ocean breeze playing to. And again, I always find it fascinating. People who are often really good at providing light to your life also struggle with darkness themselves. And the way he's able to evoke that sense and kind of present it to you and personify it is really unique. He's a great storyteller. The type of voice you could hear read any story to you and make it grab your attention. Just looking at the meaning of Jack in the Box again, Pandora's Box, safety, future, equal sign. Clearly the guy has a very glass half full viewpoint or vantage point on what life should be, but he's smart enough to ask the questions of why isn't it that black and white? And again, as I said with RM, you can't appreciate the mountains if you don't understand the valleys. If you don't know the lows, how will you ever understand the highs and their value and why you don't want to go back there? What would be worth going back there for? What would you trade for it? Feels like his 20s has been a whole lifetime, he said, because growing up is real. It hits you differently every year, every second time passes, every day, every week, every month. Life changes and throws different curveballs at you. And you can regress, or you can live in the past, or you can find ways to say, you know what, in the future I want my life to be more like this or not like this.
Always.
But now we got Future.
When I said I do, 용기와 믿음, 긍정의 rhythm. Always I needed to. When I said I do, 이래를 걸는 희망의 girl. I was 그래 난 그냥 도박이었잖아. I was 춤만 좋아하는 아이였잖아. 다워 주어진 삶에 대해 감사하는 다워 지금 가장 걱정하고 다워 늘 스스로 주체가 되어 싸워 결국 내 맘은 몸투성이잖아 평소에 다른 옷 입대 try on 좋아하는 운전처럼 한번 순리대로 봐봐 내 피가 외동겠어 왜 움직이겠어 결국 변화하고 영원한 건 없잖아 You know we know I know 강을 거슬러 오르는 연어가 될 수 없는 I needed to When I said I do 용기와 믿음 긍정의 rhythm Always I needed to When I said I do 미래를 여는 희망의 girl Future 그 전에 스스로 정할 style 단정할 style 없는 것 Future 다가올수록 무섭기도 홀로 버티기도 버거운 것 Future Man you must go with the flow 그저 흐르는 대로 가보자고 필요해 보여 나에게도 용기와 믿음으로 희망의 걸 Future 그 전에 스스로 정할 slow 단정할 slow 없는 것 다가올수록 무섭기도 홀로 버티기도 버거운 것 Man, you must go with the flow 흐르는 대로 가보자고 필요해 보여 나에게도 용기와 믿음으로 희망의 걸 Future
Everything has been so surreal on this project. I really love the messaging. I'm glad this was the one you recommended from him. I'm sure the other work is great too, and I will be getting there shortly. But on this one, the messaging, it's extremely relatable, especially for me to be doing on this channel, as I've mentioned in the past, and a little bit on this video. But when I originally started this channel, the goal was to provide a positive community in the music space where people could go and listen and escape and enjoy and relax. And just hopefully I could provide some light. When I was 16, I told myself that if I could make an impact in music and affect one person's life in a positive way, I had done my job. And I genuinely believed that back then, that was what my goal in life was to do, was to leave an impact that way. And along the way, I got busy with school and work and other stuff and lost sight of the goal and recently came back to like, that is still where I want to get to. And there was a day recently where I was questioning if this channel was something I wanted to really pursue because I'm so not a social media person. I'm not a numbers person from like I care about viewership and stuff like that. And when you do this type of things, you have to a degree, focus on those. When I was having that conversation with myself, that same day I got a message from somebody on YouTube replying to a video being like, hey, you have no idea the struggle I was going through. Your video really helped provide light, etc. And they gave more detail I'm not going to go into. But God's timing to have that work the way it did, where I was having a little internal conflict of where do I go with my future, questioning that and knowing that's what I wanted to do and focus on, but also feeling a little bit of hesitancy and to be given a sign like that. That's what I get from this song. The idea of not questioning hope, but knowing if you're going to be beaten down, you might as well keep fighting and get up. His heart's got more bruises than you could imagine, but he's not going to bleed. He's going to be fine. It's very inspiring work. Now we got Arson. I assume he's going to burn it all down.
Let's burn, 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 burn. It's done, 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 done. Let's burn. 내 열정에 burn. 내 영혼에 burn. 내 삶 속을 burn. Every day I run. 멈출 수 없던 그때 그 시절. I burn it all and I want it all. 명예는 first, of course. 인기까지도 내 스스로가 과열이 될 수밖에 없던 뭣도 모르. It's done 나의 꿈도 done 그 성과도 done 내 할목도 done 더 이상은 넌 과유불급이야 박수 칠 때 더 나는 개꿈만 내가 부르겠던 건 나를 위함이었어 세상이 털어줘 누가 알았겠어 잠시 시킬 때쯤 보니 내 흔적들이 보여 그게 너무 급불심한 방화였단 걸 뜨겁만 확게 또 잡게 내 결국 갑자기 솟아대 Nobody get nobody stop 시키 부르 끝에 오직 나만이 가능해 어떤 내 fireman 진압해도 저처럼 모든 매기를 걸어고 터졌어 한치 앞큰 관문 필요한 나의 수도를 던지 판도 뺏겨가는 한숨 It's done 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 done
All right. So that was Jack in the Box by J-Hope. And again, a different world I wasn't expecting. And I will preface with, I'll have to do a lot more research on this one transparently, because with somebody like him, whose album very much touched on the idea of balancing hope and asking questions, the black and white, the gray, what life is, I know there is so much that went over my head. So I will be doing my due diligence in the coming days leading up to the next album and the next few reviews. I'll also be checking out more of his work in the coming weeks. I feel like a lot of this would also be really cool live, so I'm excited to see the live performances. I was thinking back, I was like, I know JK stuff will sound sick live. I was interested to think about how RM stuff would sound live, because when I talk more on the element of it had similar sonics to Dijon, like that stuff is great live, but more in a small room. This felt like it would rock a headline, like it would just have the room shaking. And in terms of style, I loved it. I thought the messaging was great. I'm a big fan of NF, so to me, I find music that the lyrics over everything else, but the art behind it also is amazing. It really connects to me. The reflection to take a second just to take a step back and think about the song prior with equal. Acknowledged early on, I loved how he said he's put in the work. He wanted to do more for his own self-gain, not to just get records and other stuff, but he wanted to do this for a reason. I love that, because a lot of people get complacent. They go and do their own thing. They find their own life, and it's you can do whatever you want to do in this life. But if you're someone like him, where clearly you're driven and you want to do more and you don't want to stop, and you want to focus on the future, as he was saying, well, you're going to sometimes have to take a step back and burn it all down. And in order to do so, in order to burn brighter, you're gonna have to do that. This was a brilliant project. So far, I've been blown away by every act. I can't say I'm surprised, because, well, I can't say I'm surprised by how good the music is. I can definitely say I'm surprised by the lanes we're looking at, because I never would have guessed this was the artistic style of these projects. Like, never would have guessed this. So I've been blown away from a sonic standpoint, from a lyrical standpoint, but most importantly, from an intellectual standpoint and spiritual standpoint. These are very emotionally mature people, especially for the standpoint of they're not very old still. They've had a lot of life experience. I think it's very fascinating to me. I'm excited to learn more. I, as always, appreciate any comments you want to drop below, giving me insights. If there's anything I said that you feel was incorrect or offended you, please call me out on that. This is a community I want to build to have thoughtful and insightful conversations where we can learn from each other, each other's experiences, and each other's perspectives and perceptions on music and art, and more importantly, the meaning. As I mentioned in this video earlier, I started this realm to show you guys a look into my experience diving into K-pop and a different world of music. I think it'd be fascinating too for us to explore other parts of music too, from maybe certain sections of Europe, from South America, from wherever. I'm very fascinated because, as I've said, music transcends language. It is a universal art form that has been around forever for a reason. And that shouldn't die just because nowadays we focus on award shows and streaming numbers. So, similar to what J-Hope said on the project, focus on that light. Find some peace within it all. Be who you want to be. Remind yourself every day that what you're looking for, you are. And just find a way to bring the best out of yourself, and things will come to you. Nothing is forever, as he said. Things will change. Honestly, I'm gonna think on this one for a little. I definitely enjoyed it. There's no doubt in that. But I gotta think through as I listen back some of these songs. Some will definitely be added to the gym playlist. Some definitely for in the car. A variety of where to listen to these songs. But I enjoyed every second of this. So thank you as always. Drop some comments regarding this. But also, I'm not really sure where to go next with Jimin and Jin. I do have the next albums picked out for V based off of Messages and also for Sugar. So I will be checking out those. Those will be dropping probably today or tomorrow. I don't know when this is coming out. I got to edit. But thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. I hope you had a good day, good night, enjoyed the video, and see you soon.